birthday to my man Coop over here.
Appreciate you.
A2HH Live. We welcome everybody into the room. Let me go ahead and get in the room and make sure our levels is good, man. How you celebrating the birthday, man?
A few things in the plans. It was just a family thing last night.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
Yeah. Kept it close, tight knit. Nice bottle of wine.
Well,
Home cooked meal.
you can't knock no wine, man.
Ham in the heat.
Well, usually we celebrate the new music on a Friday night, but we kind of bringing everybody in on a Saturday afternoon to talk about this West Side Gun, Who Made the Sunshine, Savage Mode 2. But I know you had a birthday last night, so we wanted to, just kind of chill out on a Friday night. But it was a heavy evening for music, man. Very.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
And today, man, is shout out to Talib Kweli and Black Thought. They're celebrating birthdays on the same day, so I guess it's just a creative and lyricist week for birthdays, right?
Libras are creatives. Snoop and Wayne are Libras too.
Okay.
Libras are also like peacemakers too. Most Libras are very, very thoughtful people. So like all the guys that you mentioned are also like very thoughtful people too. If you actually like meet them.
Well, I know Black Thought's one of your favorite MCs, and I know we put out there on According to Hip Hop. What's your favorite Roots song? I know that's probably like super impossible, super difficult for anyone to do. Like, what's your favorite Roots song because of Black Thought's performance? Let me say it like that.
Concerto de Desperado, when I realized how great he was. So that's the song that, and it's fun, they have an album called The Tipping Point. That would be the tipping point song for me, because when I heard him on that track, I was like, oh no, he's like next level. Like, like Nas Rakim, like level with it. And so that's the song that stands up in my mind. There are some other highlights that I can think of. Rock You Off Phrenology is great. I'm trying to think of Do You Want More? I think all the stuff, everything he did on Do You Want More in Philadelphia to me is classic. I think his performance on, I can't think of the name of the song, but the song where he did his verse, but also impersonated Cool G Rap and Big Daddy Kane.
Oh, yeah, that was crazy. Yeah. Yo, man.
That's not one of my personal favorites per se, but just in awe of it because his delivery and voice, just like Kane. Delivery, cadence, lips, just like rap, and then added his verse in, and you realize he's great because his verse sounds as great as the verses that he did that sounds like them, and that's Kane and G Rap. So,
yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, if we're talking about bar for bar, Black Thought, man, I mean, top 10, top 15, I'm sure. Shout out to everybody in the group too. Shout out to Charles. Shout out to Jay. Jay says, hold on, real quick. I know you can appreciate this. Jay says, Pray for Paris is still album of the year.
Correct.
We're going to get to all that. But yeah, Black Thought's overall, all time, I guess ranking, I guess we could say, for like, I mean, we always go to that, but I think that that's important to do, and it's not about pitting people against people or whatever, but I do think in the culture to give people their flowers, I do think that ranking is a part of that. They always talk about give people their flowers, but you also want to put perspective on where people place in the culture too. You know what I'm saying? Just based on their skill set and based on the work that they put in.
I mean, if we're talking bar for bar, lyrically speaking, you could give him an argument as the best. If we're talking bar for bar,
I think that it would be hard pressed for anyone to find an MC that an MC that is as decorated as him, catalog wise and all that could out rap Black Thought.
That's what difficult. I would kind of lean on is that all of his greatness has been wrapped in guest shots and collaborative efforts, as in the Roots projects, and so people tend not to mention him because it doesn't feel like he has a solo masterpiece, because he really doesn't.
But he does, though. I feel like the Roots stuff, if we talk about you're kind of delaying too, by the way. I don't know why. I don't know what we can fix. But
Yeah, you told on me a second ago too. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hopefully everybody out there is getting it all right. But yeah, I mean, if we talk about, all right, if we're talking about people being in a group or people not being solo, I guess I feel like what we're talking about is a person not being able to hold down a song on their own lyrically. Black Thought has done
I
that
mean,
on every single
yes,
Roots project.
yes,
So I
yes.
don't feel like he's one of those people that we should say doesn't have a solo classic because that's like us saying that Rakim doesn't have a solo classic because him and Eric B were in the group. It's the same thing. It really is.
No, I'm talking. See, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm talking from the perspective of their material that I consider to be classic, not their good stuff. Their classic stuff to me has had heavy contribution efforts on those classic projects inside the camp and outside the camp. Philadelphia Half-Life and When Things Fall Apart are two of my favorite rap albums ever, but they're also contribution heavy. Philadelphia Half-Life, The Hypnotic with D'Angelo, the Back and Forth joint with Q-Tip, You and I Verse at War with Common, Dice Raw and Malik B and Clones. Malik B's all over Philadelphia Half-Life, not as much as Thought, but he's on there consistently.
Okay.
When Things Fall Apart, Most Def, Common, Dice Raw, Erica Badu. Like there was a lot of help in making those classics, and so he was the front man for sure, no question. And you know how I feel about Thought. He's personally one of my favorites ever. But also, when we talk about Thought on the that we talk about Thought, I think about somebody KRS-One that's had so much more material solo and it's made classic solo albums, Mike.
Right.
And so that's where it gets unfair. Is Black Thought beyond KRS-One lyrically? No. Does KRS-One have a better catalog? Yes. So.
You're saying a lot of problematic stuff. Go ahead.
That's all very problematic, Mike. Ain't no fucking lie about it.
Yo, Jay, we're gonna get to your comment because he's basically well. You know what? Let me get to it now. He said, "Who made the sunshine?" He got 3.5. The Liz 4. Pray for Paris 5. From a king to a god 4.5. I'm not really mad at that whole scaling.
That scaling is relatively fair. The Liz has stayed with me pretty well.
I like the Liz a lot.
I like the Liz.
Yeah.
It's dope. It's dope.
You know what? I think that, and we'll go ahead and get into it. And what I do want to say about Talib before we get off of this, man, and happy birthday to Talib. I think he's one of those lyricists that a lot of people, I want to say forgotten, you know, or, you know, he's underappreciated. Really? Let me say that. Sort of like De La Soul. I feel like Talib is underappreciated. I feel like Reflection Eternal, Train of Thought is probably one of the best raucous albums, period. I think that album is better than anything Most put out, and I love Most. Most is one of my favorite rappers, period.
Yeah. No. I love Most. I love Talib, but I want to back up for a second. He's not underrated the way De La is underrated because he doesn't have, Like I just thought about De La's 3 classic albums, and I'm like, nah, Talib don't have like 3 classics.
No, he doesn't. De La is the most underappreciated group in hip hop history, and I feel like Prince Paul is probably the most underappreciated producer in hip hop as well.
Hey, Mike, I've always thought that out of the Native Tongues group, I always thought Tribe was the best, but I've been going back and listening to De La's stuff lately, and I don't know that for certain. Like, I think Q-Tip is clearly the star of the Native Tongues because of his voice and because of his diversity between vocally, lyrically, storytelling, production-wise, sample-wise. He's the talent of the whole crew. But when you look at Tribe's 3 best albums and De La's 3 best albums, it's like, and I mean, and it might be 4 because it's like, because De La's 4th and 5th best album is better than Tribe's 4th and 5th best album. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. And I think that, you know, if we look at album for album, and I'm a Tribe guy, like I think over the years, I mean, I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, so obviously I'm a huge Outkast fan. I just wrote the piece that everybody's tripping about the Kuminabi being the greatest hip hop album ever. But for me, Tribe's music is, I don't know, man. It aged a little bit better than Cass's music, and I feel like that. But even with that being said, as a whole, even with that being said, I think.
Back up.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you say?
I feel like Tribe's music, if we talking about songs, they have aged a little bit better than some of Cass's music. It really has, man. I mean, when I hear We Got the Jazz and I hear Bonita or I hear Butter, like these songs don't sound like they were made in 1991, man. They don't. I mean, obviously Cass are superior lyricists than the Tribe members. But if we're talking about actual songs and how them things came together, stuff like Electric Relaxation is just timeless, man. Like that stuff just sounds like it was made yesterday. It really does, man. And I mean, I love Cass, but I mean, you're getting me off course here. But I'm saying all that to say that I'm a huge Tribe fan, and I would even concede to the fact that album for album, De La's catalog is possibly better than Tribe's catalog album for album. But I think a lot of things they get looked over for because they didn't have that quote-unquote star like a Q-Tip. They have that issue with the fact that their music's not streaming like that. Go ahead.
I don't think it's that. I think really the difference happened is when Midnight Marauders came out and a World Tour and Electric Relaxation came out. And those were verifiable hits. Those weren't hip hop hits.
Right.
Just hits.
Well, they have the hits over De La, definitely.
They have hits over a lot of people, low key. If you'll go back and like check their catalog,
they got the hits over Cass too, I think. Yeah.
If you're talking hits, they got hits over Cass, not songs over Cass. Correct. And we are veering off. I totally don't agree with you. I could spend a whole show telling you why I don't agree with you. I find it very problematic how you're wearing that Atlanta Hawks hat when we're doing this podcast.
Well, I mean, listen, man. I just wrote the.
From Atlanta, Georgia.
Cool and I just celebrated 22 years, excuse me. And I just wrote the piece that I believe pound for pound, minute for minute, track for track, instrument for instrument, lyric for lyric, Akumina is the best hip-hop album I've ever heard. Point blank. And listening to it again, finishing up that article, it verified that for me even more. And when I see people in the chat talking about, ATLiens is a better album than Akumina, I'm like, listen, what I'm thinking about doing, Coop, what I want to do, hold on, listen to me. What I want to do, I want to open up the phone lines. And anybody who feels that way, convince me that ATLiens is a better album than Akumina.
That's a whole nother show.
If you really feel like that. No, that's a whole nother show.
First of all, I don't even understand why Southern Playalistics getting overlooked in all this.
Southern Playalistics number 2.
Correct. So I don't even know how ATLiens even got placed ahead of Southern Playalistic, but whatever. I really don't. I told you, Mike, Aquemini, I think, is the second best rap album ever made. I have Illmatic number 1.
Jay has Illmatic number 1 as well. So he said, over Illmatic, nah. And I get that. And I mentioned that in the article, too.
No, just like I get, like just from being down here, and I don't think Illmatic is very much like Aquemini in the sense, it's just like also one of those things, I think if you're from there, you understand how important and beautiful that album was. In relationship to the stuff that got made before, it was great. You get what I mean? It's like, think about the classic stuff that just came out of that camp before. Like, it's not succinctly better than, like, Soul Food, Southern Playalistic, ATLiens and all that, but it's definitely better. It's not, like, head and shoulders above.
What, you talking about Akumina?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's not even close.
But it's not just, hold on, but it wasn't just that for Atlanta, it's that record for the South. It was the first album that came out down here that was like a step up from all the other classic shit that had gotten made, not just like down here. I'm talking like The Diary by Scarface, Coming Out Hard by 8 Ball and MJG. Pick your favorite 3-6.
Well, see, all right. Jay is in here. He said over Illmatic, nah. Over the Purple Tape, nah. Over Wu-Tang Forever. Let me explain myself on this one. And I said basically overall.
I got the Purple Tape 3.
Yeah. And two of those that Jay mentioned are in my top 5. But the difference between Akumenai and a lot of those other records, and I'm not just talking about lyricism. We know that the lyricism on the Purple Tape is otherworldly. Same thing with Wu-Tang Forever, actually. And Illmatic, I feel
not the same thing.
Well, yeah. Well, it's high octane lyricism. Let's just be real.
No, Illmatic.
And Illmatic,
lyrically, or that's something else.
No. What I will say about Illmatic is the fact that lyrically, I think that Illmatic is probably the easiest listening, high lyrical album ever made. Because technically, it was written could be more lyrical than Illmatic, but it's not as easy listening as Illmatic. And see, where I'm going with Akumenai, this ain't even really just about the lyricism. This is about the instrumentation. This is about really, the arrangement. You talking about Spodioti Dopalicious and that whole horn arrangement there, that bass line, the live drums on Liberation, the poetry on Liberation, the chords, song structure mixed in with the lyricism, mixed in with the hits and the skits and the flow of the album. And from beginning to end, I ain't heard nothing like it, man. Like, if we talk about just straight up originality, because there's not a lot of samples in that record either. And I ain't knocking samples. I'm just saying that the fact that these guys came in here with musicians and came in here with the camp and created some songs in the Key of Life type stuff. Like people came.
Yeah, Liberation is definitely that. That.
And for me, I think that songs like that really set it apart from just, the other hip hop albums that we speak about that are in that space. And I ain't knocking nobody that gets on the beat and goes crazy. That's awesome. But they took it to a different level on this one.
So can I say a few things before we talk about Westside?
Yeah, definitely. I knew we were going to address this, though.
Yeah, specifically, I have Aquemini ahead of the Purple Tape only because of 2 songs. And that's because Liberation and Skew It on the Bar with Raekwon, they found a way to make 2 songs like that exist beautifully on one album. Because that's on some rap shit. And like you said, that's on some songs in the Key of Life type shit. And they covered that spectrum, and everything in between on that album.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only reason that I have it ahead of the Purple Tape, even though I actually think the beats and the rhymes are better on the Purple Tape, and I would put the song sequence and concept on equal scale. Illmatic, I always tell people, is lightning in a bottle. People think that when Nas came out with Illmatic, that it was the start of the new school. It wasn't the start of the new school. Illmatic is the end of 85 to 93.
Yeah,
it's the end of that true hip-hop era. It's the culmination of it. It's the best piece of work that signifies that era in hip-hop. And I would argue with you a little bit and say that Paid in Full is probably easier to listen to than Illmatic because it's not as painful.
Okay. You know what? I would go with Paid in Full.
The lyrics are high on Paid in Full, correct?
But I think the lyrics are high on Paid in Full, but I think that the lyricism, I think the lyricism on Illmatic is heavier, and I think that's just because he covered a bigger spectrum of things.
It's like Mike. You know what? Like it's like Rakim taught a lot of guys how to rhyme in that way. Nas is rhyming about the stuff that he has seen in the poetic manner that Rakim taught people to rhyme that way. Pick the Mac up, told niggas back up, the Mac split. Like, Rakim isn't talking like that on Paid in Full. Nas is telling you what's happening in Breezeway at the bridge. You know what I'm saying? It's different. By the time he's coming along, that's what makes it a culmination of those things. It's the culmination of all that stuff. It's not, and so that's why I think it's better. It's not just an album. It's the culmination of an era.
It's 20 minutes in, man. We got to get to this Westside Gun.
I can spend 20, 30 minutes.
I know. All right, Westside Gun dropped. Who Made the Sunshine, and I mean, I'm gonna put the track list up here, man. I mean, with the track list when that got released, we're sitting here thinking like, yo, you got Slick Rick and Busta Rhymes on the same song. We got a feature with Boldy James and Jadakiss. You got Black Thought on the feature. You got the, of course, you got the Griselda song with Benny and Conway, and then you got a closeout song with Benny, Conway, Amani Caesar, produced by Just Blaze. You got Alchemist on the beat. So when we saw this track list, we're like, whoa, what's really about to go on here, man? What were your first thoughts of actually hearing the results of that track list that we saw in Westside Gunn's Shady debut, Who Made the World Shine? Who Made the Sunshine?
When I first listened to it, I wasn't overly impressed. But it was my birthday. I was bringing my birthday, and I've been swerving a little bit,
Right.
So I was like, I'm going to sit down on this. I really respect Westside because what I really think is going on that a lot of people don't see is that he just created something that I think he is trying to take beyond the music. And I don't know how else to say this, Mike. This project was put together more like a manner. It was put together more like a manner in the way an artist paints. It was put together more in the way that a fashion designer puts people together in certain pieces on them to have a runway show. And so when you paint or do fashion, you're going to hit and miss shit,
Yeah.
And so this album is that. I see somebody that is putting his whole vision together. One of the things that really stuck out to me is how other Griselda artists mentioning Armani's single, Palm Angels, on the album. He has them all on one accord and thinking the same way about the vision. And he's the visionary leading the train. And so this is more of a display of his vision as an artist than it is like a musical piece to me. It really is more like a piece of art. It is constructed as such. And I know that's going to go over a lot of people's heads, but he's literally saying on the first track, y'all don't get it. It wasn't until the third time that I listened to the album that I got it, and then I got what he was saying. So is the music great at moments? It's inconsistent at times, but there is some great stuff on here.
Jay says that the production sounds redundant. He was like, the production sound redundant, or am I tripping? What do you think about that?
Okay, so that goes back to that Buffalo sound, and this is what I mean about him being visionary. When I heard Fly God 2, I heard somebody that was kind of going back.
Right.
I told you, maybe kind of going back in the lab and going back in the basement. So these beats are kind of reflective of the sound of his hometown, and you have to understand their mentor and DJ Shay just died. So that's what I mean about like how you have to think about it the way that the visionary is thinking about it. He may be putting together an artistic piece of work that is more of a memoir than something that his mentor who just passed would appreciate for the beat selection that he chose. So the production isn't great, but I don't think it's meant to be for everybody. It's a vision.
You know what? One thing I will say about them, and I did. Go ahead.
Let me finish this. It is too slow and too melodic because one of the things that's appealing about this whole crew is how intense and electrifying and exciting they are, and the consistent melodic nature of the beats dulls some of that, which takes away from this project. So yes, there is some redundancy to it on that level. I'm sorry, Mike.
No. What I was gonna say was, man, because that's one of the things too that I think I've always liked about them is the fact that they've stayed true to their sound, and no matter how much of a buzz that they got, they continue to keep that sound going, and they never really felt like they had to change it up too much to cater to certain people. Now, I will say on Conway's album, he changed up some things, and I think that it didn't get away from the culture of what Griselda does. Even like I said, we gave him props for Murder Beats fitting on that album, and that production really fitting into the scheme of what they were doing without it really sounding like they was trying to, make some banger or whatever. So I could see what you're saying, and I think that Westside is the artist on Griselda. Excuse me. that has the responsibility of keeping the sound consistent.
Right. And so, you try to contextualize everything. He's the visionary. Their mentor just passed. Also, too, you also have to look at the workload. I mean, you and I have talked about it. It sounds to us like not only did he put his 2 projects together this year, it definitely sounds like, or doesn't it say he executive produced From a King to a God? And,
he did.
And the Liz.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so he's carrying like all the weight too. So it's not the best project in the world. I think it's better than Fly God 2. It's definitely no Pray for Paris. Pray for Paris is still a classic and an album of the year. And to be honest with you, I think this project isn't going to get as appreciated because to whom much is given, much is expected. They're the best crew in rap right now. He just made the best rap album I've heard in a couple of years. And so when you drop a project like this after you drop, one of the best project people heard in a couple of years and your crew's running the rap shit right now, understand the standards you're going to be held to are different. Yeah. And so for a lot of people, this is going to be a 3.5 because of Pray for Paris, I think. Because it's going to feel like too far away from Pray for Paris. It's definitely, like even giving it a 4, you would have to be somebody like me that's looking at like here's what I mean about it being like a runway show, Mike. He put this together like Quincy Jones working with the orchestra or some shit. Like even the beat selection, though redundant, he picked beats that sounded better for the guest artist and even sounded for him. The Butcher and the Blade. Yeah. The Butcher and the Blade, that's a beat made for Benny and Conway. All praises. I don't know. Have you listened to Boldy James's projects this year? Maria, Price of Tea in China?
I heard one of them.
Did you hear Price of Tea in China by The Alchemist?
Actually, I did. That was the one I heard, yes.
With Surf and Turf on it and Pinto and all that?
Yeah.
That shit was dope. And so was Maria. The beat on All Praises with Jadakiss and Boldy James, that sounds like a track for Boldy. That didn't even sound like a track for Westside, and that's why he's really not on it. It's not even for him. He's showing Boldy off. He's putting Boldy on a beat that works for Boldy with him on his hook game with Kiss closing it out to make sure that you listen so that you hear Boldy.
Right.
And I'm a Boldy fan, Mike. I like Boldy. And
I like Boldy James too.
Yeah. And so I see that's what I mean when I say he's putting it together like a conductor. He's putting people in position to succeed literally over the actual musical flow of the album. And that's what I mean about it being a runway show. Even the Liz Loves Luger with Armani singing, it's like that beat's not for him, that's for her.
And I was surprised that she was on the feature singing. That was unexpected, but I think it turned out well. I mean, because she didn't sing on her album at all, if I remember correctly, right?
I think this is one of the missteps of the album. Mm-hmm. I don't think that should have been on this album, but this is what I mean. He's the visionary leading the train. He knows everybody's looking at him, so he's putting them in position to win, and so he's taking the risk on his album.
I agree with Jay on this one. He said the third listen, he liked it a lot more. I do think that this is one of those that you like more as you listen to it, and that happened with me too. Because the first time I listened to it, I think I was listening to it more so for expectations.
Right.
Because
listening to it, it gets better.
Yeah, because you sit there and see that track list, and you're like, okay, well, I don't want to say certain tracks were a letdown. I will say this: I didn't love the features. I didn't love Busta on it, and I like Slick Rick's second feature more than the first feature. And I can't believe I'm saying this on his birthday. No disrespect, but I just felt like Black Thought for the first time in a long time just dialed it in.
Much like we talked about with Westside dropping Pray for Paris for Black Thought's verse, to whom much is given, much is expected.
Right.
And so it's hard to say. It's like it's an uninspired verse in comparison to the miraculous, consistent greatness he gives us when he gives us a verse. But everybody on his level has had verses like that have been uninspired.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, when you start off the verse highly questionable and then reference Bomani Jones, I knew it was downhill from there.
That's very cold blooded on this birthday,
I'm
Mike.
just saying.
I told you, Mike. I didn't enjoy. You know, Slick Rick is one of my inspirations and big favorites, but I didn't enjoy any of the guest features on here that were not Griselda related or affiliates.
I feel you.
You know, like
I like Jada. He's different.
Oh, except for Jada's verse, Mike. You're right. Except
but he sounds good on everything.
Well, I'm about to say it's Jada. All praises, with the exception of 98 Sabres, is the best track on here to me. Am I wrong?
I agree. And you know what? 98 Sabres. That's a crazy record. We said we were going to talk about that.
You know what I was thinking when I saw it? You know, they're saying 98 Sabres, Mike. Once again, hockey reference, Buffalo Sabres. Mm-hmm. You know, like home team championship banner with it. But when I heard the track, I was like, this is what the Firm was supposed to do in 97.
You know, I'm liking the fact that, you know, Amani Caesar has been added into the fold of, you know, Benny and Conway and Westside getting on records together. My favorite Griselda record with those three guys on it still is Brutus. But this one may be second. I love Just Blaze doing it. And that record did not disappoint at all.
I'm going to contend something with you right quick before we talk about the greatness of the record, because it is great. If we're going to include 98 Sabres in the Griselda, like kind of like canon of like great songs, we got to mention The Cow, which just has Conway and Westside on it. That's still probably Conway's, I don't know, Conway on Jesus Christ went somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went somewhere else on Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Up until that, The Cow was the best rhyme from him that I ever heard. And that's really the first time that you see Westside like kind of like Fly God on that track too. And it's a brilliant record. So my only thing is we're putting 98 Sabres up there. I think we need to put The Cow and Tito's back on there, up there too.
Oh, man, we need an all-time ranking with their posse cuts. But I'm glad that they added Amani Caesar to the fold. You know, some people have been pretty critical
it's not better than George Bondo, though.
I think George Bondo's number 3 for me. I got George Bondo number 3.
This track has more energy, but I don't think, like just rhyme-wise, Mike,
you're right.
Like they all hit their level. Like what their level is, they all hit it on George Bondo. If you think Westside, like in terms of the MC, is a 7 out of a 10. He was on 7 on that song. If you think Conway was a 9, he was a 9 on that song. If you think that Benny is a 10, he was a 10 on that song.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think George Bondo is better, is because even though this record has more energy and feels better, they're not at their peak level like they were on George Bondo.
I agree with that.
Because lyrically, George Bondo is better than Brutus. It's just the beat the Brutus is better, and Conway spazzed out at the Brutus.
It's my favorite Conway verse, honestly. It's the machine they had like they forgot. About to hit him with a fatal shot.
Like, that's up there with The Cow and Jesus Christ.
Yeah. He killed that joint. I like the order of Brutus, too. I like Benny setting it off, Westside in the middle, and Conway closing.
What Benny say? Got the ops name tatted on my trigger.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I listen to that song at least a few times a week, man.
Yeah, I gotta hear Brutus once a week. Brutus is one of those once a week plays. It's one of the best rap songs ever, Mike.
It's a great record, man. I mean, that really got me into the crew on a different level. But yeah, some people have been critical about Amani Caesar. It's like you either really like what she's doing, or some people feel like she's the weakest link in Griselda, and I don't think so. I feel like she's a balance, man. I don't even look at it like that. Like Jay over here says, Amani Caesar is fire. Her album's crazy. It gets better each time I listen. It may be a 4.5 now.
Where is Jay? Like Jay's on point today. Shout out to Jay. Like Jay, no. Like Mike, he's taking all the sentiments out of my mouth. So like, go ahead and do it, fam. Like I'm with it.
Yeah,
like,
man.
He's right. So you want to know what? I'm glad that we're bringing this up right quick. When I listened to Who Made the Sunshine for the third time, when I really started to enjoy it. Like where I didn't just enjoy like the Griselda tracks, I started to enjoy the album.
Right.
Because I like the Butcher and the Blade, All Praises, Frank Murphy, and 98 Sabres. I like those records. But I realized, Mike, they would make it, this rap crew, like these guys can rap. And like, I don't know how else to say that, but like the whole crew can rap. And I mean that Westside can rap. Benny can rap. Conway can rap.
Yeah.
Armani can rap. Flea Lord can rap. Camino can rap. Boldy can rap. Steve God, he can rap. All these guys can rap. They may not have maybe necessarily, they're not Wu-Tang.
No.
They wouldn't necessarily be running it the way they was running it if this was the 80s or the 90s. But they would have survived and thrived in any era as MCs. These are really quality MCs we're listening to.
Oh, definitely. I don't, no question. No question. MC. Any era.
Any era, they would be fine because there are not too many crews that have ever existed in rap history that have two MCs like Conway and Benny. Because the more I listen from a king to a god, Mike, like Kendrick's next album needs to be great, Mike. Because you're right. Exactly. Because Conway's the best MC in the game right now. He's been going berserk.
There's a lot that has happened since 2017. People can't sit here and rest.
My favorite. No, there's even been a lot since Pusha made Daytona.
Exactly, and I love Push. Push has to re-up.
You know, yes, he's my favorite guy post Nas's prime, and it's like no, Mike. Like just listening to Conway the last couple weeks, I'm like, no, Conway's the best MC in the game right now. And he has every right to like feel offended.
Because it's like this, you know, and I know sports is a really tough analogy with this because artists take rest and artists have to be inspired, whatever. But that's like if LeBron hadn't had an MVP caliber season since 2017 and you got other guys that were. And it's like you still want to say LeBron's the best in the game, even though that's not the case. But
I'm about to say that's not a good analogy given what's going on.
No, I ain't saying that. That's not the case. But I'm just saying if that were the case. You know what I'm saying? That's like, you know, if that were the case, you have to continuously prove, even if it's through features, man. You know what I'm saying? Something. Like, you can't just sit here and rest now and be the best in the game. Because he's making it more difficult for the follow-up.
His laurels are pretty great, but I mean, if you look at Conway's body of work as a lyricist, 2015 up to now, like, because what I think that, I don't know, and you know he's my favorite in Griselda, but it's almost like, it's like he's been offended by it for so long, and then Shade passed, and I think it did something to him because the last few tracks that he added on, they just feel a little extra murderous, Mike. Like I told you, Jesus Crisis is like the best rap song this year to me. It's the verse of the year to me.
Jay says K-Dot's overrated. I am. Well, we'll get into that, but let me ask you something real quick. Let me ask you, if we had Kendrick and Conway on the same record right now, who do you think is going to come out with the best verse or the better verse?
Rapping with Conway is a whole problem right now, Mike. It's a whole problem. You can hear that he feels a fit. Like when he's starting off Jesus Crisis, he's letting you know what time it is. I'm back in my devil's reject bag. You gotta rebuke me. Like I'm going back to my 2014, 2015, like hungry. Like that's a problem. It's a problem. I told you, Reject 2 up to this point to me was still his best project. That was 5 years ago, Mike.
Back to the LeBron analogy, right? I feel like, you know, talent's one thing. When you thriving in your prime, you're killing it. But I think when you really prove your greatness is when other niggas are in their prime and you're slightly past your prime, and what can you do with them? And I ain't saying Kendrick's past his prime, but how many more Good Kid, Mad Cities and To Pimp a Butterflies does he really have in him?
No, you want to know what I was about to say. The reason that the LeBron analogy isn't fair isn't about all the things that you're saying. It's about the fact that his real rival has had an Achilles tear for the past year and a half. So he doesn't have any real rival. These other guys have been, to quote Jay-Z, imaginary players up until this point. There's really only one guy that can really get down with LeBron. That guy tore his Achilles when he was busting Kawhi's ass before he got hurt. That's why the analogy isn't valid. Kendrick's competition is alive and well. And thriving.
Yes.
And rocking and rapping their ass off.
Yes. But I guess what I'm saying as far as like, we know that LeBron's not the LeBron of Cleveland, right? Physically and all that. But
You mean
he's
Miami? You mean Miami, right?
Miami or Cleveland. I mean, like I feel like Miami, and when he came back to Cleveland
Second
and
Cleveland.
beat
Second
Golden,
Cleveland.
yeah,
Yeah.
second Cleveland.
Miami and
He's
second
not
Cleveland.
he's not that guy anymore, right? But he's still dominating, and he's still showing guys what's what. But
No,
he's
Mike.
not. He's not
I
even.
think. No, no, no. I think he is that guy because athletically, he's only like lost this much, but
Yeah.
IQ wise, he's gained what he's lost. He's virtually the same player, Mike.
Right.
He really is.
So it's tough to
You know what
even
it is?
use him as an
He
analogy.
defensively. How about this? He defensively can't shut down like a 30-point per game scorer the way that he could in 2012.
Right.
But other than that, Mike, he can do everything else.
Well, Jay says he got Conway besting, you know what I'm saying, Kendrick on the track if they were to get on the same track right now.
I told you. I just said don't nobody want to get on no track with Conway right now.
I will say this, man. Kendrick and Pusha, you know, they got to come with another great effort, man. You can't just rest on. I mean, in this day and time, these guys have upped the ante.
How about
Griselda putting out too much quality music for people to say that somebody else is the best.
Here's where Method Man's post was valid. You know, on the point where I was like, no, I don't think it's Cuban Links or Doggy Style, but I do agree with him with every rhyme on there is dope, Mike. He hit the mark every single time. And so understand the album is great, but the main reason that it's great is because he's great every single time. I told you, Mike, it was like a gymnast flipping off the beam every time. Every time he went in on a verse on that album, he went in, he detonated, he got out, he went in, he detonated every single time. And so when somebody who is already great, like I told you before this album dropped, Mike, I think I told you it's like if I was picking the last 5 years, I would have him like 3 or 4. So when somebody who's always already 3 or 4 starts hitting and fighting like this, it's like, yeah, that's not like imaginary. That's legit.
Let me ask you this, though.
Hold on. And here's why it's legit. On the last time that you heard Pusha or Kendrick make something great, and here's why I'm saying you have to say he's the best right now, did they lyrically hit their mark every single time on every single track when they went in, the way Conway just did? Did they do that on their last 2 projects?
I think they're different lyricists.
Because Daytona is a classic to me, but I don't think every rhyme on there is one of those high-level Pusha T, like keys open doors type of rhymes.
What do you think is the best verse on Daytona? I got 2 in my head right now.
What would Meek do?
I knew you were gonna. You know, I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah.
I don't agree.
I tell the Dutch to Akinelli, middle fingers out the ghost, screaming Machiavelli.
I like never trust a chick who falls in love with a camera. She'll fuck you and fuck around janitor.
Yeah.
Set the parameters. You either with the pro ballers or the
all the other amateurs. Yeah.
Crazy record.
No.
The bust down is bust down. The don't match the bezel. Lower levels where you settle at. I'm the pot calling the kettle black. Where's
Mike, it's my guy. But what I'm telling you is, how about this? How a lot of people feel about the Pusha T that they're hearing on Daytona. I don't know if they've heard Pusha T on Hell Hath No Fury.
Oh, he was rapping different. It was really, he was channeling his inner big in that one. I did like verse 2 on The Games We Play too. But
what about Come Back Baby? Are those top level Pusha T verses?
Not
those top level Pusha T verses?
Not
or is that
really.
just an overall great put together record?
I think that's the thing. I think that's the thing. I think Conway approaches records from just straight up bars where they were putting together records.
Yes, and Pusha's already approached it from that bar level. But what I am telling you is that there's a guy that was already it's like a heavyweight fight. So in this heavyweight division, it's like, let's say most people would have Kendrick slotted number 1, Pusha number 2, Cole number 3, Conway number 4, Killer Mike number 5. When the guy who's number 4 makes a product, and the other 3 guys who are considered to be ahead of him on this ranking, on this list, when you have to go back and start asking yourself, when's the last time those guys rhymed like that on a great album from beginning to end of the album, well, that guy's going to start looking like either like the champ or the most feared guy walking into the
And
ring.
see,
Correct me if
that's
I'm wrong.
why I said what I said a few shows back,
No,
because
I said you were
I
right.
need a
You were right.
reminder. You got to
I was wrong.
remind me what's going
No,
on.
you were right. No,
Yeah.
you were right. Like the more I listen from a king to a god, I'm like, damn. I'm like, it's no breaks, Mike. There's no downtime. He's rhyming his ass off, even on the tracks he shouldn't be rhyming his ass off on. Almost like, no, like you gonna hear that I'm the best nigga out here rapping right now, and I'm not gonna stop rapping like this until you like acknowledge it, because he just jumped on his brother's album, and his 2 verses on there, he's doing the same thing. On Armani's album, he's doing the same thing.
Is Conway the lyricist of the year and Westside's MC of the year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes and yes. Lyricist of the year and artist of the year. But hold on, Mike. Where would you rate Who Made the Sunshine? Like out of 5. Like, what would you give it?
I was just about to ask you that.
No, I beat you to the punch. My initial listen was a 3.5. It's feeling more like a 4, which is why I asked you behind the scenes if you thought this was better than Big Sean's album. Here's the caveat that I'm going to give to you. A 4 comes in different shapes and sizes. The Big Sean project is more consistent, but the highlights of this album are what make it a 4, where it really overall probably should be a 3.5, because it's that 98 Sabres, that Butcher and the Blade, that All Praises. It's like those aren't just all right tracks, Mike. Those tracks just ain't all right. A lot of Big Sean's album, and I don't mean this in a bad way, the records are just good.
Yeah. No. I agree. It's an even line there, but this one has
It's a quintessential 4, but it's like when I listen to All Praises, it's like I could ride to this dope boy shit all day.
Yeah, man.
Which what I'm about to do when we get done.
And it sounds better, and like Jay was saying, it sounds better the more you hear it. So that's why, it's a good thing we didn't do a show last night, because we probably would be thinking a little bit different about it than we actually are now.
Absolutely. My third listen happened 2 hours ago.
I think it's a 4, and I think a lot of that 4 is based on the fact of, Pray for Paris happened. And I think that the personnel and, what we saw when the track list got released and the anticipation, because again, like I said, the first time I listened to it, I think that was more of expectations that I was listening to as opposed to just straight up listening to the music. And I will say that, yes, the production does kind of sound redundant in certain spots. But I do think that the consistency is there, and I do stand by what I said when I wasn't totally impressed by the features that I was really looking forward to.
No, I didn't enjoy Thought's verse, Busta's verse. Big Slick Rick fan. I echo your sentiments about the second verse being better than the first verse, but still not being overly impressed, in the sense that it's like I felt like I was just happy to hear Slick Rick.
Right. And that's fine. But see, Busta Rhymes for me, and I guess let me rewind a little bit, because I'm a huge Busta Rhymes fan, and we all know that Busta Rhymes has different chambers and how he has approached music over the years, and I'm just not a big fan of that Busta Rhymes approach as much as some of his other approaches to tracks.
Can I tell you what my biggest problem with the album is? My biggest problem with the album is Ocean Prime, because I'm thinking like, that's Slick Rick and Busta Rhymes. Why didn't they pull Westside out of his box, like a la French Toast?
Right.
That's what I was expecting. When I saw Slick Rick and Busta Rhymes on a track with Westside, I was like, oh, he's going out the box. They jumped in his box, and it's like, y'all are icons. It's like, y'all don't have to, and I love Westside, but it's like, y'all don't have to jump in his box. I didn't like that at all, really.
You're right.
I didn't like Ocean.
I agree.
Buster. They don't got to jump in Westside's box.
And now that you mentioned French Toast, and we're gonna get on Pray for Paris slightly, I think that 327. It's a great example of Westside doing a collaboration with Tyler and Joey Badass that worked. That wasn't something that Westside normally does sonically. And like you said, French Toast with Wale, I was looking for it to be a collaboration that sounded that seamless, as opposed to this one sounding, slightly forced.
This album made me appreciate how beautiful Pray for Paris is, because
it's lightning in a bottle, kind of.
It is. He put it together so well and put them. Everybody was in their perfect place on Pray for Paris. Every song is in its perfect place. I told you, Mike, it's one of those few albums where the rhetoric is as such, but it still sounds beautiful. This is more of what you get out of the rhetoric. But I think that this is definitely influenced by his artistic and fashion vision, and also by the death of his mentor in a different way. See, Conway's the lyricist and the MC of the group. He was inspired to go berserk on the mic.
Right.
I think Westside's been inspired to give him the Buffalo sound.
Right.
Like the shit they would want to hear. And so I think this is more of an album that, even though he put everybody in their place and made it for everybody, I think this is more for his people. This is what his people want to hear.
And you know what? And I think that, it's interesting that you say that, because Westside's dropping like 3 quality projects in 1 year. And, I think it's what's needed in this year. And for a lot of people, it's unheard of. They're like, oh, this is the new No Limit model. And, and he's dropping again. But I think each album solidifies Pray for Paris even more. Not because these albums are whack in any sense. It's that their quality and their quality, and you see what Pray for Paris was able to do perfectly, where it's like, these are dope, but this is something else. And I think we appreciate Pray for Paris even more with him dropping 2 other quality albums in the same year. That's something I don't think that we've seen, period. Like, where you appreciate, kind of one of those Jigga things. Like, gave y'all prophecy on my first joint, and y'all lamed out. Didn't really appreciate it till the second one came out. And it's like, we're getting all that in 1 year. You know what I'm saying?
I told you, Mike, Pray for Paris, I had to ask myself, and as a Pusha T fan, if it's better than Daytona. It's like, I'm hardcore when I stick to my guns. It's like, that's how great Pray for Paris is. And even his subsequent releases after Pray for Paris, which are dope projects, like, wouldn't you say both of these are 4s? Like, Fly God 2 and Who Made the Sunshine are 4s.
That's the thing. And see, we're judging it on the Pray for Paris scale. We got some people in the chat. Clint Richardson says, how come the mainstream is giving Griselda no love? Jay comes in with another one saying, y'all don't show Benny enough love. The Plugs I Met's a masterpiece. Tana Talks 3 is classic. Maybe because I love Drug Talk. Benny ain't made an album this year. And Benny's my favorite. Benny's my favorite.
Back up. We're waiting on Benny like everybody else.
Yeah.
Waiting on Benny like everybody else. It ain't the guys ain't got love for Benny. We're waiting for to be honest.
Benny pump faked us.
He didn't pump fake us, Mike. But it's like when we're talking about album of the year contenders, as this year is waning, as we have now entered October and we are officially hitting fourth quarter territory, unless Kendrick or Pusha are about to drop something out the blue, isn't Benny's project the most anticipated project? I think so.
And you know what? All jokes aside, though, we gave Benny, MC of the Year last year, and, he retweeted it and everything, and, shout out to Benny. I'm looking forward to him dropping something this year. Benny and Hit Boy are going to be Album of the Year.
Yeah, I told you Hit Boy's already Producer of the Year. He's everywhere.
Metro is my pick. After hearing Savage Mode 2, I got Metro. But
that's one album, Mike.
Hey,
one album. Great beat. The beats are great. I think it's, I was asking myself after I listened to it, I was like, so you think the beats are better than the beats on Wanna, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Me too. And I thought Wanna had the best beats this year. But that's what, 16 tracks of beats? Hit Boy is everywhere this year, Mike.
Hit Boy's doing a lot of work.
Sean shit. Mike, all these albums that we keep reviewing, like Hit Boy's been on damn near all of them the last 2 months.
He's getting a lot of placement, man. But I don't know, man. That Savage Mode 2 hits different. Maybe again, my bias might be showing up in that.
That's that 3-6.
Yeah, that's that 3-6, man. But yeah, I love the fact that he was paying homage to 3-6 as well. It kind of sounded like I said, a Project Pat approach to it. And I just like the way that, Metro and Savage sound together
They're
anyway.
great together. No, they're
Yeah.
great together.
And
Some pairings work, and that pairing works.
yeah, it does. But
No, it does.
yeah, we're looking forward to Benny though, for real. Jay said
Yeah.
Savage Mode 2 is trash. I mean, look, you got Morgan Freeman.
Jay's what I would call a traditionalist. I can just tell from how he's been talking during the show. He's a traditionalist.
And that's all good. I think that Griselda, they hit that hardcore spot for hip hop fans. And we really, really appreciate what Griselda's been able to bring forth this year. And I think that, 2018 was huge for them. But 2020, I think, has been one of those epic years for Griselda. And they have made hip hop even more epic in 2020 just with their contributions alone. And I think this is something that'll be in the history books. And I hope Benny is a part of that 2020 as well.
I was about to say, Mike, I don't think some people... Benny can... If Benny's album is comparable to Pray for Paris or From a King to a God, that's going to change everything for him and for Griselda.
Yes. But even if it's not, even if he don't even drop, I think what Pray for Paris and From a King to a God have done.
No, Mike. Whenever he drops,
okay.
If it's comparable to From a King to a God or Pray for Paris, it's gonna do.
And shit, the Liz.
Different. But no. Because I'm listening to Pray for Paris and I'm listening From a King to a God, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna be listening to this 10 years from now, because it's a classic.
So From a King to a God is the second best hip hop album of 2020.
So I always try to judge things based on how it holds. It's holding the same way Alfredo did, and lyrically, I think it's better, even though I think Alfredo's better production.
Okay. I think it's better than Alfredo personally. That's just my opinion.
I mean, I would right now. I go Pray for Paris, From a King to a God, Alfredo, King's Disease, probably in some sort of tie, because I think
we should put a post up. We should put a post up with those four and see what people think.
Yeah, those are the four best albums this year so far. I think those albums have separated themselves in terms of playability and replayability.
Okay.
Yeah, so those would be none of those are fours, Mike. None of those are fours. Those are all beyond fours. You know what?
And let's not forget about Big Sean. I think Big Sean did a really, really great job this year. I just don't think that, for what it's worth, I don't know if he's as strong of a MC. And I know somebody's going to say, well, West Side Gun's not that strong of an MC. Oh, Clint Richardson wants to know if we can answer his question. Why do you think the mainstream isn't showing Griselda the love necessary? I just don't think that they make mainstream records. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that the internet has given us an opportunity to, as fans, connect with stuff that the mainstream would have never showed any light for in the first place. That's what I think.
Personal thoughts as somebody who's a big fan of the Clips and a big fan of Re-Up Gang. When you're making the type of music that Griselda makes, you're going to have to take the notoriety that does and does not come with it.
Right.
Like, to me, Pusha has been the best MC even before Kendrick came along, but that's because I knew how to get my hands on the Re-Up Gang mixtapes.
Yeah.
I got Lil Willin', Hell Hath No Fury, Till the Casket Drops. I got all his mixtapes when Kanye signed on the Good Music and all that.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, I mean, to me, they're Re-Up Gang. They're just better MCs as a collective than Re-Up Gang. But how about this? They got two Pusha T's. They got Conway and Benny. They got Pusha T's.
Let's answer this question. Who does the mainstream show love to? Are we talking about artists like, the Big Seans of the world? These are people who have had quote unquote hit records and stuff too. That's not the approach of Griselda. They're not out here trying to, hit the radio hard. Like, they're about having bodies of work.
How about this? Wayne is an embodiment of how fickle radio is. Like, he was pretty much born into radio via Cash Money and then being on radio, and then radio pretty much abandoned him until he released mixtape upon mixtape and pretty much created his own lane to the point where the shit that he was making became radio friendly, and then the standard for what people even copy to this day has young MCs. And so, you know, that's how fickle radio is. Like, you remember when radio abandoned Wayne, right, Mike?
Yeah, but you know, I'll take it a step further. Like, it disgusts me to see.
Wayne's been about 5, 6, 7 years with no radio play.
Listen, man, I've seen Atlanta radio abandon Outkast, abandon T.I., abandon Ludacris, a radio guy. So yeah, you know, it's like, come on, man. Like, those are the reasons why fans don't put any real stock in radio. And, you know, people, you know, with the internet, luckily people are able to actually gravitate to what they want to gravitate to. But as far as like people getting accolades for their Billboard placements and things like that, those things don't mean as much. You know, and in today's time, people are able to actually get to the music that they want to get to. That stuff that, I'm sorry, man, and no disrespect to Drake or anything, but I don't want to hear people talking about how many times Drake charted. All that stuff is calculated and formulated in different ways. Let's talk about the classics. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about the stuff that people are really gravitating to, not the stuff that people are forced to listen to.
Mike, what Redman say on How High in 94? Fuck a billboard. I'm a bullet on my block.
How you dope when you paid for your billboard spot? You know, like I said, man, when you see Atlanta radio abandon Outkast and Outkast made Atlanta scene, I mean, because does Atlanta radio support Big Boy solo stuff? That shit is crazy. It's crazy to me.
I told you how disrespectful I think it is. It's not just crazy, Mike. It's disrespectful.
It is. New York radio does it too. They've done it to, you know, to Chuck D.
No, Mike, no. Disrespecting Big Boy down here is like disrespecting Nas or Jay when they pop up. They roll out the fucking carpet and pay homage when those guys pop up. That's who Big Boy is down here to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Tell me that if I'm wrong. Mike, tell me we didn't just watch Nas do his first real promo tour in like 10 years, and they were just like, oh my God, you're the greatest.
But did they roll out the red carpet for Nas on?
Play your shit all the time. No, Mike. They was literally like, we just love to talk to you and play your shit all the time. And Big Boy's down here like, will y'all listen to my shit? The fuck is that? What the fuck is that?
It's disrespect. It's disrespectful. And again, Outkast made Atlanta's hip hop scene.
What the fuck is that?
Somebody said, you lost me, no disrespect to Drake. What do you mean, JC? We're not here to disrespect any artist. We're just saying, at the end of the day.
Drake, I mean, here's the thing. How about this? Like, to go back to the Redman quote, there are people out here that verifiably think Drake is a better MC than Redman.
Because of numbers.
No. That's the problem with the charts and keeping track of singles and hits and all that. People in their mind think Drake is better than Redman. Mike, did you hear Redman on the... Remember that Redman Cypher verse from a few years back? That's literally better than anything Drake has ever spit in his life. It was just one of Redman's Cypher verses. Get the fuck out of here.
You know, I would like to, you know, and I don't want this to turn into a whole Drake quote-unquote bashing thing. And people want to talk about... But no, let's be honest.
It's not Redman.
Let's be honest. Drake, if we talk about where he's mentioned, he's overrated, man. Like, let's just be real. And, you know, he's...
If you're talking about where he's rated, yes, he is overrated, but Drake is great. He's just not properly rated.
He's not. Because you have people putting Drake in the big conversation and the Jay conversation, and that's overrating Drake. And that's just overrating Drake. And I think that we saw... Because at the end of the day, if Drake was in that class, what happened with Pusha T wouldn't have happened in that way. He stepped in the ring with an MC who was superior than he, and what happened. It's what it is. Now, he's better fit to, you know, go back and forth with the Meek Mills of the world. That's his arena.
You want to know why that is? Because Push is an A1 lyricist.
Of course.
And Drake's not.
Of course. So and people
saw
that live and in living color.
So we can't put him in A1 status.
Exactly. Because if Big would have came...
So here's where the perspective gets lost. You and I talk about how Jadakiss and Pusha T are kind of like on the ones that are on that A-B borderline, Mike. They're on the borderline, as in we don't even look at them the way we look at Big and Nas and Jay and Pac and you know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're on the A- list on our objective list. Like Pusha's an A+ to me, but objectively it's like him and Kiss are like that A-, right? Drake's not even that.
No,
not even. He gets rated A+.
He's in the, like I said, the Meek range, the Luda range, all that stuff is cool or whatever. But to sit here,
he's good. He's dope.
Yeah. And because I think what a lot of people even forget with Jay, like what Jay was dealing with, what he was dealing with in 2001, when everybody in the game was coming at him, he took that. And not only just took that, he took that and he went at, the guy who was, that people said was better than him. And what happened on that end. But it wasn't just a Jay and Nas thing. Everybody from Prodigy to
Felony.
Everybody was coming at Jay's name. Drake has never had to deal with that.
Hold on. People have been taking cheap shots at Jay on the low for years too. Yeah. But
Drake's never dealt with that.
Mike, but here's the thing about it. Nobody ever had this confused. Jay could rhyme his ass off.
Yes. There was never a Memphis Bleak is writing rhymes for Jay or something, Right. There was never none of that.
The best part of the takeover is the end of the takeover to me. It always was, because he showed you how great he was. And I was always worried about what would happen to the game after he kind of would step down some, because it's like I was always saying to myself, it's like I hope guys understand, like, you can rap about the things that Jay raps about, because that's not complicated. But to rap like Jay is very complicated, Mike.
Yeah.
And the epitome of that is the end of the takeover. And to all you other cats throwing shots at Jigga, you only get half a bar. Fuck y'all niggas. That's like who Jay is in a nutshell. It's like Jay knows how to sum it all up real quick and get rid of you because he's great. Yep. The other guys talk the way that Jay talk, they don't know how to do that. And that's kind of what's wrong with the game. That's where the game really started getting messed up, is because guys started talking about the life, but they didn't understand, like, Jay's still an MC, even though he talks about the life. He's an MC the caliber of a Nas, of a Black Thought, as a lyricist. Like, no, I can go in here and rhyme with you too. Yeah. I can hustle out, but I can rhyme with you.
Because somewhere it got lost in hip hop's overall greatest artist that you have to be able to do all those things. This ain't about you just doing numbers. This ain't about you just selling records. This ain't about you just being on the radio all the time. Like, as much as I think what Ja Rule did was really dope for the era that he did it in, these people are using those type of arguments and the numbers that Ja Rule would have put up to say that he was one of the all-time greats. That's what they use when we concern Drake. And it's not what it is. You got to prove a lot more things than that. And I just don't think Drake has it in him.
Hold on. You can't change the standard because times have changed. So if you look at like, Mike, who are the 5 greatest MCs of all time objectively in most people's eyes? Not your eyes or my eyes, but in most people's eyes, who are people's top 5?
When people say top 5 dead or alive, they're talking about Pac, Biggie, Jay, Nas, and whoever that 5th person is, depending on your era, right?
It's usually Rakim, though, right? It's usually Rakim.
I mean, yeah.
No, it's still carried. I think it's still him usually.
Sometimes, like I said, it depends. It depends on who.
Yeah, it's Wayne to some people. Like, people 25,
right.
People 30 years old now, it's Wayne. Okay.
Right.
So understand that when you're that great, and even in Wayne's case, there's a certain capacity that you operate at. And so let's look at some of those things How about this? Let's cut that fifth person. Let's cover the four guys who were always in there.
I want to talk about Wayne real quick. I want to talk about Wayne real quick on that sense. Because I don't believe that Wayne is that high, but like you said, some people do. But at least what we could say about Wayne, there has been moments where Wayne rapped his ass off to the point where you be like, yo, he's in a zone. I can't say that for Drake. I can't. Like, just bar for bar, I can't. Like, I can't say. Like, what's your favorite Drake verse? Like, what is the lyricism that you heard from Drake that was like, yo, I gotta rewind that? What are the bars?
So that's where I'm kind of about to make my point for you is that everybody that's getting rated traditionally from the standard where Drake gets rated sometimes, they have a few things that Drake doesn't have. They have, first of all, an all-time great hip-hop album. That's why I said let's cover the four guys. Like, in the case of Nas, Biggie,
right,
and Jay, and Pac,
right,
they all have all-time classic albums.
Right.
They have all-time classic great songs. They have all-time great singles, even in Nas's case. They have, there are so many things that came into them being considered that, and it's like, and I don't mean this to knock Drake, but it's like those things that we always considered that you needed to be great. Like, you needed something. You couldn't just make a classic, Mike. Like, you have to make an all-time great classic. You have to make Illmatic, Ready to Die, Reasonable Doubt, All Eyes on. You have to make that. He's never made that. We don't even. That's why it's like I don't even want to address the lyric side of it, because it's like, no, where's that seminal piece of work where it's like you're like, oh my God, like, and people are like, thank me later. I'm like, no. Don't put thank me later, or if you're reading this too late, you can call that a classic, but don't call it that, because calling it that, you want to know what it is? Compare him to Kanye.
And you know, and you know what? I wouldn't even do that, because he ain't got no college dropout. He doesn't have a My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
You want to talk about like, no, you're right, Mike, because Kanye's made all-time great classics.
Stop it. No. He doesn't have an album.
Like, he's not even in Kanye or Wayne's range, because I'm like you. If I were picking Wayne somewhere, Wayne would be somewhere further back for me than he would probably be for most people who are under 35. I already know.
Drake doesn't have a better album than Kanye's fourth best album.
Correct.
And so
he doesn't have anything. He doesn't have anything better than the Carter 2 to me.
No. And like I said, if we want to sit here and then even if we want to talk about those four MCs that you're talking about, when A War of Words came about, he doesn't have those kind of responses that those guys have had. He doesn't have a Takeover. He doesn't have a Ether. He doesn't have a Hit 'Em Up. He doesn't have the What's Beef. He doesn't.
You're right, but that's what I mean. How about this? Even for what we feel about Wayne being placed too high on most people's list, Mike, I think it was probably 2007. Matter of fact, Benny just bought it up.
Yeah.
On the West Side album. Going crazy like 07 Wayne.
Yeah.
What was the best thing like 07, 08?
Listen.
Drake's never even been considered on that, and I consider Wayne like more like top 25, 30-ish than I do top 10, 20.
I'm with you.
Correct?
I'm with you there. And like I can at least hear
my 20 to 30.
I can at least hear Wayne on that Cannon record and be like, damn, or Stunting Like My Daddy. Or hearing like Wayne on Best Rapper Alive, or what was that song on the Carter one? Birdman Jr. You know, those moments. And I can't say that for Drake. I can't.
The Carter 2 is a moment. Mike, the Carter 2 is a moment. Like, he's rapping his ass off all through the Carter 2. Money on My Mind, Oh No, Best Rapper Alive, Mo Fire, Fireman, Fly In, Best Rapper Alive. Best Rapper Alive, is that my favorite Wayne song? No, Money on My Mind and Best Rapper Alive are my favorite Wayne songs.
I love Money on My Mind. I've just never been that, and you know, I could be wrong. I've just never been that impressed with Drake as a lyricist. You know, and so that part of it kind of takes it out of him being an all-time great to me. And, you know, some people say that Tupac's not a rapidy rap lyricist, but I felt him. Like, You know, so I think the songs like Dear Mama, Keep Your Head Up, those are special. Those are records that you didn't have to be a lyricist that's going with all these lyrical acrobats to do. But I'm just saying, I guess I never really connected with what Drake was doing as an MC like that to even think that he is even top 25. I don't even think he's top 25. I mean, but I think that as a hit maker, he's one of the best to do that. I'll give him that.
No, he's not only the best, Mike. He's the best hit maker in the history of rap, and I would place him somewhere probably 30 to 50 based on solely that, though. Because there's just too many guys greater as MCs fundamentally to put him any higher than 30 for me.
But see, for me, too, hip-hop's not even about making hits. So...
No, you can't say I guess, you know.
It's not. It's about more of a spectrum. It's not about making crossover hits.
It's the expression of urban angst, but the urban angst has grown and gone everywhere. So what is it now? Like, you're talking about hip hop at its core, and you know me, Mike. Like I'm, you know, my behind the scene thoughts are different than a lot of the shit that I say out here.
But no, all right. I guess what I'm saying is I like Bad and Bougie Moments as hits. That wasn't supposed to be a hit. That was those guys that did some shit and it just took on a life of its own. That's what I mean.
You know, I love it when it's organic like that too. When it just happens, like Me, Myself, and I by De La Soul. They weren't trying to make a hit.
Yeah.
They just ended up doing the shit. No, I love it when it Cream by Wu-Tang Clan. Hip hop's best moments are like that, Mike. They reminisce over you. Fight the power.
Yeah.
Nothing but a thing. They weren't trying to make all-time great hip hop records and hits. No, but it's not like that anymore.
Let me ask you this: does Kendrick Lamar have a legit hit record? If somebody asks you, without having to look at any pieces of paper or any charting and all that, just based on the rhythm out here and what you hear people playing the most, what would you say are Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole's hit records?
J. Cole's would be Crooked Smile. And Kendrick's would probably be Swimming Pools or All Right.
I don't hear Swimming Pools at all.
I don't like swimming pools.
I don't either. I don't.
Like, how about this? When I listen to Swimming Pools, I only like listening to Swimming Pools when I am listening to Good Kid, Mad City from beginning to end, because it fits in the context of the story and the picture that Kendrick is painting, very much in the same way that I have a tendency to listen to One Time for Your Mind on Illmatic, because it fits what's going on, and by the time you got me there, I'm going. Don't personally love the record just standing by itself. It's an album.
I think Kendrick's hit record in the streets is Mad City. As far as that record that comes on and everybody reacts to, and that you still hear, and maybe Money Trees too.
Money Trees is. I was thinking Money Trees.
And now J. Cole, not sure. But the fact that we don't have clear-cut answers and these guys are always the names that are mentioned is indicative of this era and how much a hit really means.
Ooh. Valid point, Mike. Very valid point. But neither one of those guys have ever been looked at as hit makers. Like, everything they've done has kind of been organic. Like, that's why I didn't even bring up the what's the song with Drake from Good Kid, Mad City?
Poetic Justice.
Yeah, but that's actually a dope record.
It is.
It is. Poetic Justice is dope.
Like, even with people like A$AP Rocky, right? Who I feel like has always had a cult following. Problems was the industry trying to make him a hit. And it's clear. You could tell he really was just dialing it in for that. That era of MCs don't care about hit records like that. Drake's the only one. It's almost like he's in the field making Billboard hits by himself because no one else really cares about that shit. No one else in his class really cares about that shit.
You know what? Everybody in his class has the capability to do other things.
Yeah.
So don't get it confused. Like they're not concerned with those things. It's just if they don't deliver on that, it's not gonna keep them from releasing a good project.
And their core fans don't really care about getting that hit from them.
I told you, Mike. Like I enjoy Port of Miami too by Rick Ross, even though it didn't have his customary bangers per se. Yeah. I don't confuse it with God Forgives and I Don't, but I thought it was a really good effort.